any advice that you would give to people starting a podcast?
There's never a right time. So my advice is just start.
Welcome back, everyone, to the next episode of Zas Podcast. Thank you all for tuning in. And today is a very special episode. I have a very special guest, Heath from Gutter to Gutter Podcast. Thank you for joining on. And his nickname is Static.
Thank you, dude. Thank you. Yeah, way too kind.
Nah, man, like I said to you literally just before we started recording, I was blown away that you actually said yes to coming on the show. So, you know, like I'm actually genuinely super excited to,
that's
to
awesome,
be
man.
interviewing
That's awesome.
you.
Thank you. It's one of those things when someone reaches out to me, like especially Aussie podcasts, I'm all about it.
Yeah.
You know, when there's another one coming, I'll be sharing it. You know, I'm happy. I want sort of rising tide lifts all ships, right?
Yeah, exactly right.
So I want everyone to grow together. So that's as soon as I see another one pop up, I'm like, yep, I'm all about it.
Yeah,
so.
and honestly, I'm trying to follow that same sort of mindset as well.
Yeah.
Like if I see another Aussie podcast, you know, no matter how small they are, and eventually, like obviously, I'd like to grow this. So it gets to the point where it gets bigger and bigger, slowly, and then bring them up with me as well, because then you make a little community,
Yep.
you have your contacts and everything like that. So, and everyone benefits from it too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but yeah, let's get straight into it, man.
Let's do it.
So
Let's do it.
obviously, did you want to do a bit of an introduction for my listeners? Because they probably don't know who you are. If actually, some of them might know who you are, because I've got a few gearheads who are my mates.
So this is something that I do to every single guest I have on.
Yeah, go.
I've never thought of it myself, right, is to give me a bit of a rundown on who they are in their own words.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I'm like, I'm glad that's you. Now it's me, right? So
Putting it on you now.
I guess, yeah, my name's Heath, aka Static. I host Gutter to Gutter podcast. I've hosted that for almost 4 years now. Yes, I'm coming up on its 4th birthday this May. It's been a journey, I can tell you that much.
I'm definitely going to get into that as well.
It's been a big journey, so one of a lot of learning, one of many lessons, but it's been fun too. So
Yeah.
I promised myself I wasn't going to say a lot. There I am.
I do it too, mate. I always say like too often as well. So
I don't really know what else to tell you. A gearhead from way back. I started off in the mini truck scene in Western Sydney. I've come up through that. I kind of went away from it for a little while. I got into tournament paintball.
Mm-hmm. You play paintball?
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
Dude, like me and my mate, John Kay, shout out to him. We actually, we started playing years ago. When I say start, like very amateurish. Like we just bought our own gear and we would just go maybe once a month and play. And you know, when you see someone with gear popping it up and you see all the other people who just rent their gear, they always look at you and go, oh shit, this guy's insane. But we weren't that great. But what made you play paintball?
I went to I was an extra in a friend's bucks party.
Yeah,
I was just like, hey man, come along. We need extra numbers, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay. And we went along. Me and my mate, we'd seen that tournament guys were starting to wear bright colours and stuff. So I literally wore my motocross pants and a motocross jersey, I think it might have been a shift jersey or something like that. And the guy that owned the paintball field was instantly about it. He goes, you guys almost look the part. He goes, you should come down, try our tournament stuff. We had no idea that it was even a thing. We just saw on some videos somewhere that some dudes were wearing bright colours. Well, that's what we're going to do. We don't really care about getting shot.
Yeah.
So we went out, we played. The guy said, man, you should come in on a Sunday, because Sundays were like training days for tournament players. So come in, give it a go. They actually had like a bit of a training day. They had a couple of teams training at the time. So we're kind of watching it going, yeah, that's pretty mad.
Yeah, dude, it's insane. And you just see them, like the technique when they're peppering the boards, and as they're peppering, they're reloading at the same time.
Yeah.
Because we were thinking about doing one, like just one of the amateur tournaments, but we never followed through with it. We just played in Kellyville. There's a, it's not there anymore, I think.
It would have been Heartbreak Ridge?
No, Heartbreak, I think, is Blacktown.
Yeah.
Kellyville was they used to host a tournament called Total War.
That's Action.
Action.
Yeah,
that's
where I started playing.
Yeah.
So I know the owner of it very well. He's a really good man.
Yeah, he seemed like a really nice guy when we'd go, but it's been years since I've played, to be honest. So
yeah, that's a place to go. That's where the tournament stuff's at. So
yeah,
that's really cool.
But so I've got a few questions for you, mate.
Yeah.
Because this is going to be it's going to be a bit more interview, but also, just talking shit. Honestly, that's kind of what this podcast is about. It's just super relaxed, having interesting people on the pod, and just having fun. Honestly, so your Gutter to Gutter is mainly a car podcast.
Yeah.
And for what I seem to understand after, especially lately, your transition's been more focused on the drift scene.
So, okay, well, I've kind of split two ways, right? So the podcast is still the podcast. It is I should have mentioned that in my intro, right?
That's all right.
I want to showcase and tell the stories of the Australian automotive industry.
Yeah.
So as a whole, it's not just drift based. What I've found is drifters are really easy to get onto the podcast.
Oh, really?
Yeah, if you're trying to get guests, it's like sometimes it can be an absolute nightmare just trying to get guests. And as you know, like just trying to organise today can be difficult.
Yeah, of course.
So,
and honestly, it was probably mainly my fault because I would be like, oh shit, man, I need to reschedule. And I did it like 3 times.
It's all good. It's all good. I understand how it works. Right?
Yeah.
But drifters want to talk about themselves. Sorry, drifters, but it's true.
A bit narcissistic.
It's true. They want to talk about themselves, but it's like, again, sorry, drifters. It's like the 6-year-old soccer game, right?
Yeah.
All the kids are chasing the ball, but they all want to see pictures of themselves and things like that. So the drifters are just easier to talk to.
Yeah,
easier to get involved. A lot of sort of, I guess, old heads in the automotive scene aren't real tech savvy either. So it started in the age of COVID, right? And it just made everything online. So all the interviews and whatever else I was doing were all online. So a lot of the older heads and a lot of the guys that you'd really want to speak to got to realise some of the really cool stories and really cool knowledge.
Yeah.
They're just older guys and they're not extremely tech savvy. So it's kind of just finding that fine line and
especially during
the right people.
Yeah, and during COVID as well, like trying to get face to face would have been near impossible at that point as well.
Yeah.
So trying to do as much Zoom as you can back then.
So the drift side of things comes in with what we're calling Gutter to Gutter TV. That's more of the YouTube content.
I've been watching that. Yep.
And that is essentially a monthly wrap up of the whole Australian drift scene. So what we found was that you can't get that information easily anywhere.
Okay.
It's kind of little bits and pieces here and there, and you've got to know where to look. So our idea with it was to just bring it all into one place and give you this little half-hour segment of a video that you can watch and be caught up on what's happened the month just gone.
Yeah.
As well as what's happening in the future. So in the next month or so. So you've got an idea of, cool, this event's going on, I can go here and I can go here, and you can follow some of these events or like larger competitions or things like that. That was a general idea. But we're also incorporating, like some funny little skits as well as...
Yeah, so I saw your mate when he had the mullet, but he had what was his name? His nickname?
That's Tony B.
Tony, yeah. But wasn't he playing a character when he had the mullet, or no, he wasn't?
So that's his... Well, I don't know if we've actually given him a name yet, but that character, right? He does commentary at Summer Nats for Drift Cadets drift demos. So the drift demos that happen at Summer Nats, he does all the commentary for.
Yeah.
So to get in the spirit of Summer Nats, he puts the mullet on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Dude is bald as.
Actually, yeah, I've seen the videos. That's hilarious. So. But no, that's really cool because I've watched like ever since you've started YouTube, which you've only just started recently, actually.
Yeah.
And how come you made that transition to go into YouTube?
You're just seeing, right, like, you know yourself, I'm just seeing more and more video content put out and it's being paid attention to more. As an audio-only platform, it's very difficult to sort of break through, like the stuff that you've got to do to then make it into like reels and clips and things like that. It's just not real engaging. So the video, I'd already thought about trying to get the podcast done in a video format anyway. So I've sort of made moves to buy the equipment to get that happening.
Yeah.
And again, everything being online, it's pretty easy when it's online. But I also find, like right now, sitting face to face is just so much easier.
Oh, it's so much more natural too.
Yeah.
I feel like because I did one of the first podcasts I did. It wasn't even on my own. It was someone else's. Shout out to, I think it's Defining Boundaries with Peter Cox. So that was the very first podcast I ever did. Freaking was so nervous. I was shit in the bed. And you know that first podcast here. I almost never uploaded my first episode. So just doing that episode over Zoom. I think it was Zoom or Skype. It was one of the two. And it was okay, but it didn't feel like I was talking to someone. Like it just felt awkward, when there's those awkward pauses with that sort of lag online. But when you're face to face, it feels so much more natural. And not only that, the clips coming out of it for YouTube Shorts and TikTok and whatever,
Yeah.
it's so much easier to make.
Yeah. Well, it's easy to read like social cues and facial cues person to person. When you're kind of online, you're looking at a screen and you're looking at that, you know what I mean? It's a bit unnatural anyway. I'm quite used to talking to people that way.
Yeah.
I streamed gaming for a long time on Twitch.
What'd you play?
Destiny was my main game.
Oh,
Destiny and Titanfall 2.
My mate, he'd be actually hilarious if you know him. His name's Matt. I'm not going to throw his last name. I'll tell you after the pod. But he was like hardcore. He probably still, maybe not so much these days now because he's got a kid. But he was hardcore into Destiny 2. And not Titanfall, but Destiny 2, he was hardcore into that.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. I never mentioned that. Or maybe you haven't. I just didn't miss the episode.
It's been here and there.
Okay.
Yeah, it's again, like the podcast isn't about myself. It's about the stories of other people. So I don't really touch on what I do a lot. So it's pretty interesting to come somewhere else and then be the person.
And now it's about
you. Now I'm the one going being interrogated. You know what I mean? So I got the bright lights here.
No, it's cool. It's a cool little setup in here.
It's a mad little setup.
But I want to touch base because one of the things I thought was super interesting was when you touched on the audio podcast.
Yep.
So can you explain what your journey was like at the start when you started your podcast and as you went on? Because when I noticed you, I don't even know how it happened. I think you just saw me, you followed, and then I followed you back. And then it might have been like a month or two later, I noticed that you put something on your story and you were like top 10 or top 20 of the car podcasts in Australia. And I was like, holy shit, dude, that is impressive as.
That blew me away. I had no idea.
Yeah, did that just happen overnight?
Yes.
Wow. That's crazy.
It's not something I'd looked at. And this is going to sound really bad. It's going to sound really bad. I went to Google.
Yeah.
I just wanted to see what came up, gutter to gutter, right? I just wanted to type that in and go, please tell me I'm a hit. Like, at least when you type that in.
Yeah.
No. So I did the next best thing and I Googled my own name.
Yeah. Like everyone's done it.
Right. And because I am the publisher of my podcast, that came up.
Oh,
so
okay.
it came up in Chartable. Chartable is essentially the Australian podcast charts.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, sweet, I'll have a look and see where it's at. And I think at that point it might have been at 25. I'm like, what?
That's crazy,
25, and it's like automotive and leisure or something like that.
Yeah.
In the Australian podcast sort of industry. I'm like, what?
That's crazy,
no
man.
way. So I'm having a look through. I'm like, oh, where's everybody else at? And I'm seeing all the other podcasts that we sort of, I sort of chat with and whatever else. So I'm screenshotting that and sending that out to them. I'm like, 25? No way. I thought that's mad. How good is that?
When I saw that, I was blown away for you. I was like, holy shit, dude. Like, if that was me, I'd be screaming.
And then it was like every few weeks, I'm like, oh, yeah, I'll check that again and see where it's at. And then I'm like down to 90 or back up to like 54. And I checked it once and I was sitting at number 10. I'm like, what?
Yeah, that's when I was like, oh my God, top 10. Yeah. That's insane.
Yeah. I can tell you my metrics, like, like the background analytics sort of thing, did not show me that was the case at all.
My analytics.
No way.
And I feel like my analytics right now, because I'm just going to be super transparent. So my podcast, it's so funny because my first episode I ever did, episode 1, I had an Ironman athlete, and he's actually a good friend of mine too. And that got about 49 listens.
Yep.
It's nothing crazy. 49 listens on Spotify, or just overall Spotify, iTunes, all that sort of crap. And then I got about 90 listens or 85 views on YouTube, which I thought was awesome, right? For my first episode.
Yeah.
But what I've noticed, and I don't know if I'm the only one, is over time, especially my listens in the audio have declined slowly over time.
Yep.
So I don't know if it's because I'm not creating good content or I need to like switch things up. And that's kind of what I'm experimenting with now, to be honest. Like trying to make sure I make engaging content, things that people want to listen to as well.
Yeah.
So, and also enjoy it. I think it's important that you need to enjoy what you do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, I don't know if that was the same trend that happened with you. To be fair, it's only been 1 year for me, not 4 years.
I don't know. I can tell you when I started uploading episodes, I think I've got 2 episodes, like actual podcast episodes on YouTube now. 2, maybe 3. Or I'm editing the 3rd. I'm not sure. Things are on a bit of a standstill at the moment, but my listens like my actual downloads dropped, audio downloads dropped.
Oh, wow. Because of the YouTube as well?
I can only assume so.
It's funny because...
But it didn't equate to the views that were on YouTube.
Right.
So I dropped a lot, but the views weren't heaps.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It might have been the time of year.
Interesting.
I couldn't tell you.
It's so hard to predict these things, man,
Yep.
because I try to, I don't know if you do the same thing, but I'll look at, you know, other podcasts or other sort of YouTube channels and I'll see like, you know, they've gotten 1 million views. Like, well, how did they get 1 million views? I just like sit there and work it out. And sometimes, honestly, I just think some people would make really good content and they deserve the views and everything that comes with it. And there are some videos I watch and I go, I have a hard time believing that they didn't pay for their views or they didn't pay for their likes. Like sometimes I just think like it's impossible. Like there's one particular channel and I'm not going to name the name, but I just feel like their first video got 10 million views. And I thought there's no shot. And I watched it and it's not that great. And every other video after that, 10 million, 20 million. There was one video that got 50 million views.
Wow.
It was like the 6th video or something. And I thought, there's no chance. Like, the video was not that good. It did not deserve 50 million. And then now that they've sort of established themselves, which nothing to like to discredit them or anything like that. If you can take advantage of the promote and you've got the money, I would do the same. So, but yeah, just if I guess someone like me where I just don't have the funds like that to throw around, it's really hard to grow.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm finding anyway.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have played around with some promotional stuff on, you know, like Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah.
And that seems to help a little. But,
Did you do any promotes on Spotify?
Not on Spotify.
Okay.
I don't mess around a lot with Spotify. Funnily enough, that's where most of my listeners are.
That's so
good,
good,
I don't mess
man.
around on there. You know what I mean? I just like, I'll just put it up there and see how it goes. It's kind of where I direct everyone as well.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it's just easier, right? Everybody's got Spotify.
Yeah.
It's just easier. You can say it's on Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts and Stitcher and whatever else. 90% of people are looking at Spotify. So it's just easier.
But it's funny because I was watching like this YouTube video. See, I've said like so many times. It's so bad. I was watching this YouTube video and it showed the best podcast to promote, or if you're a nobody essentially if you don't promote on Apple Podcasts. But I get way more listens on Spotify than I do on Apple.
Yeah.
So it's just, I don't know what to believe when I read someone else's opinion. Then off of my personal experience, it's completely different.
Yeah.
So I don't know what to believe.
Well, our experiences are the same. Right?
Yeah, there you go.
Spotify just seems to get more. I don't know if it's just where we are in the world, in Australia. Maybe it's different outside of Australia.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. It's interesting talking to other people, probably boring as hell for everybody watching and listening. It's interesting talking to other people about analytics because it's something I don't try and dwell on, but you're always looking, right? It's always in the back of your mind, like, oh, how are the numbers doing? How's this going?
Oh, 100%, because it's kind of like your little baby. It's something that you want to grow. And eventually, like, I can only speak for myself, I would like to make this full time. For me personally.
Yeah, to be mad, right?
Yeah, it's the dream, and I have complete control on everything I do, all the content, everything like that. So that is a dream for me. But one thing I wanted to ask you, and I've got a question in here. Have you ever had any, oh, actually, I'll start with this. Any advice that you would give to people starting a podcast? Things that, you're already thinking like, yes, there's certain things.
Absolutely. For ages, me and the gentleman that I started the podcast with initially, Shonky, still a good mate of mine. He's still around. But we talked about it for ages. And there's never a right time. So my advice is just start. I started with the phone in my pocket. You know what I mean?
I've got 2 phones right now.
We literally sat there around a wine barrel with a phone sat in the middle recording. And that was it. That's how the podcast started.
Yeah.
I thought about it way too long because I come from that streaming background and I had all the equipment. I'm like, okay, well, how do I make that equipment work for this? And I need to get this and I need to get this, and it's going to sound mad. Because coming from that streaming background, my brain was going straight to audio. Even though streaming's so visual, everything audio is key.
100%.
So like, I've got to nail the audio. After dicking around, it was probably 6 months. Like we actually were talking about it before COVID was a thing, but we kicked off in COVID because we just talked about it for too long.
I think you picked a good time to kick off though, because no one had anything to do around that time. So a lot of content creators just skyrocketed.
We're also noticing that a lot of people were doing project builds with cars.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Because they had nothing else to do.
So they were just
And
at home tinkering
nothing
away.
else, yeah. So kind of we're like, all right, now's the time, definitely. Like, no more digging around. We'll get the phone out and we'll just start recording, build everything up from there. So the advice, just do it. Just get into it. Whatever you've got, the phone in your pocket is good enough. It'll start you off. If you want to do something, just do it.
Yeah, 100%. And I feel like that's the best advice is just start and you'll figure it out as you go.
Because you can watch all the reviews in the world on YouTube. You can look at every single piece of audio equipment. You're just going to have information overload.
Yeah.
And you don't even know what's going to work for you yet.
100%. So
just start with what you got. The thing you've got in your pocket is the best thing to start with.
100%. And it's funny because when I recorded my first episode, I was kind of like, did exactly what you did. I digged around for a long time and I've been thinking like, oh, I want to start a podcast and, you know, because I used to listen to other podcasts and they would never ask questions that I would think of. So I just thought, why don't I just start my own and hopefully eventually grow to a point we're going to have big guests on the show and I can ask them questions that I want to ask, right? And I digged around for a long time and it probably was about 2 or 3 years after that I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm doing it. So I just got 2 cameras. I bought like these shitty microphones from Kogan. And it was the microphones didn't end up working, so I had to use the audio from the camera.
I've probably got the same microphones, dude.
Yeah. It was like $40 or something. Yeah.
You got 2 of them, and they plugged into a USB thing. And
using Audacity and all that sort of jazz.
It was horrendous.
Yeah, it was honestly, it was a nightmare. And,
yeah.
You know, and I think everyone has to go through that experience though, and just go, I probably need to invest in audio. And then now that you're in it, you're way more inclined to buy it and go straight, pretty much head first into it. Have you had any backlash on social media?
No.
That's good.
No. I've had a couple of people on now in the drift community. There's a beef that goes on that I don't know about. I'm too late into the scene to know what happened in the history of it.
Right.
But I've got a fair idea of how it works. I've seen it before in the paintball industry. It's been a big thing. But I've had a guest on a couple of times, and he's doing everything he can, and he just wants to ask the question that hopefully everybody sort of gets their hands on and goes, all right, well, how do we make it better, right? And that's kind of a bit of where the Gutter to Gutter TV comes in as well. Like, how do we make drift scene in Australia as a whole better? He's asking that question, but after sort of putting out little bits and pieces on stories and things like that, and him personally, like having that question from him, other people have kind of answered back at that. So it's not backlash at me, it's more backlash at a guest I've had.
Yeah, okay.
And just his way of going about trying to make it a better community.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
It was really odd, man. It was so strange. But that's probably it. Like it wasn't super nasty, but it kind of was. It was strange.
Yeah, I feel like, because I've had some backlash on, when I say backlash, like it's not like anything crazy.
Yeah.
I've had more trolls on like TikTok and stuff like that. And it's like a sarcastic comment where they go, hey man, we should start a podcast. And it's like that, they put it in quotation marks.
Yeah.
I just go, fuck wits, you know what I mean? And honestly, because they comment that, now it's like, now I want to do another episode just to piss you off more.
Well, this is great, right? So you're putting that out, and somebody who's sitting there picking belly button lint out, eating Cheetos, is commenting on your videos, going, "Oh, we should start a podcast because this guy." You're the one doing it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Where's their podcast?
They haven't got one. They're not that interesting to have one. So no, but it's just interesting because, everyone has their experience, I guess, on social media with backlash, and I think you're one of the lucky very few that haven't had anything crazy.
I think as more and more video stuff comes out,
people
might start paying more attention to it then, and you know, you're gonna, especially with the drift scene, we're gonna start having more polarizing characters and things like that, because we do like a driver interview. We include that in every episode. So we've got a fair few driver interviews backed up, ready to go.
Yeah.
So I think when people start hearing a little more as
start getting a bit more controversial,
their personalities, then we might get a bit more. But I think for the moment, everyone's just keen on hearing the stories. Like,
and that's what makes it so
hard to shit on someone's life. You know what I mean? When you're hearing someone's story start to finish, it's kind of hard to shit on that.
Yeah, 100%. Well, let's actually get straight into. Let's just kind of go over to the podcast now. Because obviously we've established that Gutter Gutter is a car podcast, automotive podcast. What inspired you to do the podcast to begin with? Because I'm guessing you've got a heavy background in cars. I'm guessing you work in the automotive industry.
No, I don't.
Oh, you don't?
No, I'm an electrician.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. But I started off in the mini truck scene
Yeah.
in Western Sydney. That was very interesting.
So when you say mini trucks, like what's that? Like the
Airbag utes.
Oh,
Slammed to
really?
the ground, yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
interesting.
So that was kind of early 2000s when everybody was a master fabricator.
Yeah, quote unquote.
Yeah. What's happened now from that is that 20 years on, there's some real master fabricators that have come out of that and are now really, really successful companies. They have built really successful companies off the back of those days. You know what I mean? So that's really cool, and that really helped start the podcast off. But as far as a background in automotive, that's probably it. Like we tinkered around, we cut up utes. What we call utes, pickup trucks.
Out of all the scenes to get into, though, the mini truck scene, like, why that particular scene?
It just resonated with me. Like I was kind of into everything, and I still am. At the time that I was getting into that scene, I was driving a Subaru Brumby. That was my first car.
I don't even know what that is, if I'm being honest. I'd have to Google that.
Mighty Car Mods built one.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So I'm going to watch
just
their video
recently built one. So just search them and Brumby, you'll find it.
Yeah.
It's a little like little Subaru pickup.
Yeah.
Based off like the Leone.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. That's probably the best way I could explain it.
Yeah. Okay. So I think I've got an idea of what it looks like now.
But after that, I then bought a Subaru Vortex. So if you remember the doorstop looking sort of car.
Yeah.
It's one of those, right? And the inside it looked like a cockpit. It was crazy. Like the gear stick looked like a full on like fighter jet sort of
That's sick.
joystick. It was insane. Like it was just so weird. It was like the epitome of 80s in a car.
Yeah. It's like the Countach, but the Subaru version of it.
And walking around that car, you could pick almost every other car of its time, like the Magnas of the time, the Supras of the time. Like it was just the Liberty. You could kind of pick little bits and pieces of all the cars of that time in this car.
Yeah.
It was really cool. Like they were a weird looking car, and even going to buy it, someone told me about it. I'm like, I don't know, man. They're pretty ugly. You know what I mean? And anybody search Subaru Vortex, they're pretty ugly.
Yeah.
But I'm like, man, if I can get over the shape when I get there and look at it, I'll buy it. I walked in the door and I just went, "There's your money."
Yeah, I'm taking it. See you later.
It's done.
So what did you end up doing with that car?
I blew the motor up at the drag strip.
How much power did you put into it?
So I put 22 pounds of boost into it.
Holy dude!
Yeah. Yep.
How many kilowatts was that pushing at the wheels?
I want to say with 22 pounds, it was probably pushing like 40 kilowatts.
It was just all wheel speed.
It was terrible. Maybe 150 to 200 tops.
Yeah.
Yeah. It ran a 15 flat.
Oh, so super fast is what we're talking. All that car needed was wings and take off.
It was not fast at all.
It's a bit of fun though, I guess.
Yeah. So that's pushing too much boost through a stock motor. Who would have known that'd explode pistons?
Who would have?
So essentially, that kind of sat off to the side. Then I thought, okay, cool. We'll pull the motor out. We'll rebuild that motor again, or a motor like it. And it just never happened.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's happened to a lot of people that blow a motor and they're like, oh, I'll sit it over there. And because it's kind of sat there and you've got other cars,
Yeah.
you got other things to think about. The whole time I had like a Datsun. The whole time I'd had a Datsun as well, like I'm a Datsun nut. But I'd had that and that was sitting in the garage. So I'm like, oh, I'll spend some time and work on that now.
Yeah,
and I'll leave that one to the side. And it just never got fixed. A mate of mine bought a Vortex that had like a Subaru Liberty motor swap.
Wow.
So I'm like, here, man, have all the suspension and everything
Yeah,
out of it.
just
Like,
gut my car.
take the whole thing, put all that suspension through that car because it'll be mad. Like the thing handled amazingly.
Yeah.
But
blew up.
it was meant for the track, and that's what I should have done with it.
Yeah, fair enough. One of my dream things to do eventually, when I have the funds to do it, would be to, and I've been saying this for years now, I want to buy an RX-8. I want to do an LS swap with it. Hopefully put an LS. See, the thing is now that I say LS, I'm a little bit, I don't know if I want to go down that road just because Holden's obviously not there anymore. Price of those engines have skyrocketed since.
Up and up.
Yeah, so maybe I'll probably just get like a Barracuda engine in there or something like that. So yeah, we'll see how we go. And if I ever go down that road, just do a complete engine swap, fully like spec the car so it looks fucking phenomenal.
Yeah.
And like I can imagine that project car would cost me about $150,000 to $180,000, but that's the dream.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah. So that's what I'd like to do,
Yeah.
and then just have that as my daily sort
Yeah.
of thing. I don't want to do anything crazy. Like I'd probably want to have about 300 kilowatts at the wheels. That car can definitely handle it, especially with that motor.
Yeah.
So I don't want, like my mate Richard, he always says to me, like, you'll start with 300 kilowatts, but you want more. And then you'll get
It's
more.
always the way.
Yeah.
You'll get used to it and go, oh, that's not enough now.
That's what he said, the exact same thing.
Yep.
You get used to it and it's not enough. So I don't know. I've always been intent because my wife, before we got married, she bought a car. Have you heard of the Kia Proceed GT?
Not really, but
Okay.
I can
So it's
get a kind of a picture of it.
Do you know the Megane?
Yep.
So it's kind of that shape, that two-door hatch.
Yep.
And where we bought it from, there was a guy, I can't remember exactly where it was from. It was about 8 hours north. We kind of met halfway. And he had put about 15 grand into this thing. So
Yeah, right.
Stage 1 tune. He put a little body kit on there, extractors, the whole thing, right? And she bought that car. And when we got married, it became our car. And then I just remember thinking, like, this car I wouldn't want to change anything of it. It had 150 kilowatts at the wheels. It was an amazing car to drive. Too bad, RIP, car got written off.
Oh, no.
Unfortunately. It wasn't our fault, I should say. Someone crashed into it.
Yep.
So, we ended up buying a little Serrata GT after that, and that's a fun little car, but I don't know if I'm that type of guy where once I get 300 kilowatts, I want more. I think once I'm content, I'm content. Yeah, I can see your smile.
We'll see.
What's a crazy car that you've driven? What's probably the craziest car you've ever driven?
So as far as crazy and power, not a lot. I've been in a lot.
Yeah.
I can say we're going back easily 2 decades. really showing my age. Probably not quite that far, but pretty close.
Yeah.
If I was having a guess, it'd be around the 500-600 horsepower mark.
Okay, that's
in
decent amount of power.
in an XD Falcon.
Nice.
That the speedo didn't work in, but in top gear,
Doesn't need to work.
the revs were off the clock on the tacho, on the freeway, run in the away direction from Parramatta for good reason. So we're probably looking allegedly somewhere around the 250 mark.
250 allegedly.
250 allegedly.
So, but that's an old school sort of car though.
So it was a very old school sort of build. It was like that sort of, I guess you'd call it Australian muscle.
Yeah.
XD Falcon, very highly built 351.
Yeah.
What would have been in the day like a decent Summer Nats car?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
See, for me, I'm kind of in the same boat as you, to be honest, because I've been in some nice cars. I've never been in anything crazy. I'll probably say the two sort of crazy cars I've ever been in was a C63 Mercedes. It was I think it was a 2014 model. That was my brother-in-law's car at the time.
Yep.
And that was he actually let me drive that car too. It was fucking insane. It was great.
Yep.
And the other car, I didn't drive this. I was a passenger. My mate Shannon, who's actually been on the show quite a few times, he's pretty much a co-host at this point. He had a Subaru WRX, and he had that thing. Actually, he bought that already, sort of like worked, and it was pushing 280 kilowatts at the wheels, full drive for that car because it's super light as well. 280 kilowatts at the wheels, and it had 850 newton meters of torque. So the car would in the rain, it'd just be skating.
Yeah.
So, but when it's dry and it's got good tires, that thing would launched. Holy, hang the fuck on. That car was flying. Yep. So, yeah, those are probably the only two crazy cars I've ever been in. I'd love to go in a Lamborghini. I'd love to just experience what that's like.
Yeah.
So, or like a Porsche or, a Ferrari or anything of that caliber. I'd love to be in something like that.
Yeah.
Actually, I've been in a Maserati, but that was on my wedding day. So it's not like they gave it or anything. Like that. It was just really nice and luxe on the inside. So, but yeah, that's kind of like my crazy experience.
Yeah.
Have you ever had any crazy stories about being like some near, or maybe not a near miss, but anything just went, holy.
So I've got a pretty good story from the Brumby actually.
Yeah.
Because it was a Subaru, because it was a 4-wheel drive, that essentially meant I was possum born. Right?
Okay, yeah.
Right. And in like sort of the foothills of the Blue Mountains, there's a lot of fire trails and things like that. So we sort of got out there to a few of those, and I sort of got pretty familiar with sort of how they worked and the route and all that sort of stuff. So I like, had my mate in the car one day. Your mate's in the car, instant failure story, right?
Yeah.
He's sort of, you're trying to impress him, and he's kind of going, whatever. Well, I'm not really that impressed. He had his dog with him.
Yep.
That'll come up a bit later.
Okay. Oh no, here we go.
So I think I'm a shit hot rally driver because I'm in a Subaru and it's all-wheel drive. From what I could tell, I was doing pretty good. We were sort of around the 80 mark through some of these fire trails.
So you were flying.
We come around this one corner and just came unstuck. Oh, and it's at that point you realise, like, I'm actually really moving here.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's a lot of trees around me.
So, oh my gosh. So what happened?
There's a lot of trees. So I ended up it was a left-hand slide, so sort of right side of the driver's side of the car, essentially facing down the direction we're travelling.
Yep.
It was looking like it started to sort of want to go back and off to the right-hand side if you were travelling straight. The direction the car was travelling, it was like an embankment to fall off a bit of a hill.
Holy dude.
And the other way was like an embankment up. So I'm just like, I'm now pointed essentially towards that embankment up. So I just put my foot into it so that we could get up that embankment and hopefully stop.
So what happened?
We ended up wedged on that embankment and stopped almost instantly.
Yeah, yeah.
At which point the dog went flying out the window. I managed to catch him.
Out the window?
I managed to catch him right before he got out the window.
Holy dude.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I haven't had any crazy car stories, to be honest. Like, that's the thing. I feel like I've had a vanilla life. Honestly, it's a little bit boring. Well, not boring actually, but a lot of the experiences I've had has been more in the DJ scene.
Yeah.
So that's when I've seen like some crazy shit. Like I remember my first gig I ever did was the biggest brawl I've ever seen in my entire life. And that honestly got me hooked to DJing. I was like, I fucking love this shit. So let's go. So my car story isn't going to be nowhere near any cool. Yeah, that's really interesting, man.
Yeah. So after that, I was stuck on that embankment. That car wore that scar for the rest of its life.
Yeah.
It was essentially it punched in like the door sill.
Yeah, yeah.
The car wore the scar for the rest of its life, but I went for a walk. I had to go for a walk to find someone to help me try and get it off because me and my mate couldn't lift it off.
If you don't mind me asking, and I hope I don't come across as rude, but was this at a time when you had mobile phones?
No.
Oh, so that...
No. Well, actually, if I had my car, I would have had one, but it wouldn't have meant anything. It would have meant... This is my age, right? I'm aging myself right now. If the grey beard doesn't do it. This was the time where you flipped the bottom of the phone down and you lifted the aerial up. My first mobile number started with 018.
See, that doesn't mean anything to me.
so it was an analog number before digital became a thing.
Okay.
My phone held 10 numbers in it. That was it.
That's technology, mate.
That was the height of technology, but they didn't have names. They were just numbers.
That's actually, you know what? I don't mind that because I have a really good memory of numbers. So I can recognize them and go, oh, that's my dad.
So you just had to remember who was who, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You just had to remember, all right, that's so-and-so, that's so-and-so. But ringing mum and dad was out of the question. You know what I mean? I just
you just had an
my
accident?
car. Yeah, I just destroyed my car.
Oh, my God.
So I went for a walk. And besides, there was no way I could have told them where we were.
Yeah,
there was probably no reception where we were anyway, being an analog service.
And also back then, like how many satellites could you have possibly connected to or any radio towers or anything like that?
Probably none. So went for a walk, ended up finding a guy who was going for a leisurely drive through these fire trails, thankfully. I said, oh, hey, man, like I'm probably about 5 Ks down that road because I was walking for a good hour or so. Probably about 5 Ks down that road. My car's stuck on an embankment. Do you mind sort of giving me a hand? And it was him and another mate. He's like, yeah, man, no worries. So he goes, jump in. We'll drive you down. So he drove down. As he's coming around the corner and seeing it, he goes, oh.
Oh, he knew straight away.
Yeah. I said, yeah.
No questions asked. He's like, don't worry, mate.
No worries, man. He goes, jump in. We'll try and help you get it off. So luckily, like it had a bull bar, so everyone's lifting off the bull bar, and they managed to get it lifted off the embankment and rolled back down and point it the right way.
Yeah,
got
yeah,
it
yeah.
started, no problem.
Oh, lucky.
And thankfully, it didn't have any other issues aside from like the sill that I destroyed.
That was going to be my next question. Like, did you have any issues trying to start or anything like that?
No,
God.
thankfully it was all good. So
Have you ever done the Nasho run, like the go through the national park and?
yeah,
Yeah, that's quite like I've done that run actually just recently.
Yeah.
I've never done it before.
I've done it more on I've done it once on a motorbike.
Yeah,
Never again on a motorbike.
yeah. It's funny you mentioned that.
I don't know if you've noticed. Next time you go for a drive through it, just have a look at the armco rails that surround it.
Okay.
Have a look 2 to 3 feet inside of those armco rails. It's all moss.
Yes. No.
Moss and bike parts.
Oh my gosh.
So I rode through there once. I went, that is not going to be me.
I was it's so funny you mentioned that because I literally went for this drive about 2 weeks ago. Actually, yeah, it would have been 2 weeks ago. And we met this guy so when we went through the park, it was me, my brother-in-law, and my mate Shannon. Shannon was on a bike, and me and my brother-in-law were in cars. So we just did the nice cruise through the park. We get to the lookout. I can't remember what it's called. Stanley. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head now. Anyway, we get there, and we just kind of chill there for about 10, 15 minutes. We see like a Nissan R34 GTR just parked up, and there was a 370Z as well as an E36 M3.
Yep.
And they're fucking awesome cars. So we went up to those cars and we saw the drivers and we were like just having a bit of a chat. I'm like, oh, do you mind if we just look at your cars? And they said, yeah, go for it. And we're just looking at them. And then as we're looking at them, there's another guy who's on this fucking Hayabusa, like this freaking 1000 or 1200 cc bike. It was fucking huge, this thing. Pulls up. Anyway, he actually ends up talking to us because my mate Shannon, full gearhead, like with bikes and stuff.
Yeah.
Starts talking to him and starts talking about the high fatality rate in the national park. It's like the highest for bikes. It was crazy.
Yeah.
And he goes, the moss, people don't realize the moss in the park is everywhere.
Yeah.
So it's funny that you literally said the same thing. So
You can see it, like literally driving along, the road is green.
I didn't notice it when
you can
we were
see it,
driving.
man.
Oh, fuck. I didn't notice it when we were, maybe the day that I went, because I have to admit during that time it was kind of sunny, so it was a little bit dry. So I don't know if there was any. I didn't notice. But I did notice my mate when he was going, because it was Shannon at the front with the bike. It was me and my brother-in-law. And there was one corner that he went around and he just kind of like fishtailed slightly.
Yeah.
But he got control real quick. So I was like, oh, fuck.
That
Like,
would have been
it's just a quick break. So yeah, he when we got to the top, he was like, oh yeah, did you see? I'm like, yeah, bro, I fucking like that split second. I was like, shit scared for you, man. But no, it was all good in the end. But I was genuinely surprised when that guy came and he said, you know, the national park is, you know, it's obviously not a racetrack. You know what I mean? It's not. It was never meant for that.
No.
So it's not like we weren't speeding throughout the park anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just funny that you mentioned that. So what was your first ride like going through the national park?
I'm very cautious the first time I'm somewhere.
100%.
If that day we had been going sort of back and forth, I would have been fine after maybe sort of a run back and forth sort of thing.
Yeah.
I might have been starting to push it a little more.
Yeah.
But generally when I say that sort of thing, I don't even bother because it's just a matter of time before you are those bike parts on the side of the road.
Yeah, exactly right. And it's
So
not worth it, to be honest.
It's just not worth it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I've seen people along the Putty Road, which is another very common road for bikes. I've seen people like dudes on bikes weaving through other riders while taking some of these corners. I'm like, man, it's just not worth it. I've gone on 2 rides on the Putty Road. I swore I'd never do it again.
Oh, really?
Both times, the group of people I was with, somebody came off and didn't make it home on their bike.
So for like hospital, ambulance?
Hospital.
Fuck.
Yep.
Were they okay though?
Both of them very fucked up.
But alive though?
Alive.
Oh, thank God for that. Because I was like, shit.
One, I am assuming still walks with a limp now.
Fuck, dude.
Yeah, broken through here. Up top. What's that? What's this bone?
I think it's the femur.
The big one?
Yeah, I think it's the femur. I could be wrong.
Yeah, the one you
but
don't
we're
want
always
to do.
right on this podcast. So.
Yeah. The one you don't want to do? Yeah, broke that. Snap that's clean through.
Shit.
The other guy was an older gentleman. It was a new bike. It wasn't even like a real tight corner or anything. There was My father was essentially behind him.
Yeah.
Used to ride with my father a lot too. Essentially behind him, said, I don't even know. Like he just kind of went wide and went into the gravel, and then down he went.
Shit.
But, yeah.
Like it's funny because I wanted a bike when I was younger, and honestly, I'm so glad my parents just never did that. Like, I have obviously Greek background, so
Yeah.
my mum actually said if you ever buy a bike, the first thing I'm doing is I'm putting sugar in your fuel tank. You're never going to ride it.
Yeah.
And then I said, well, I just won't park it here. He goes, it doesn't matter.
I'll
find it.
find it,
I'll
yeah.
find it. And you know what? I would do the same with my kids as well. I would never let them ride bikes.
I think everybody has to ride a bike to understand what it's like to be a bike rider on the road.
Oh, so you can get their perspective as well.
Yeah.
For
Yep.
sure.
It 100% just by doing like the stay upright course and going through the process to get your Ps. You don't have to own a bike to do that, but just going through that, you get a perspective, and it actually makes you a better driver too.
Oh, because you are way more aware of your surroundings.
Yep.
Because I think people in cars, they just
Yep.
take it for granted
Yep.
that they've got a steel cage around them,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
But in a bike, you
They're
don't
not
have
even
that.
looking. They don't care.
Nah.
And it's one thing, like I can see what someone's doing. I used to be, I couldn't be driving along the freeway with my wife driving, and I'll go, watch out for that guy. So what are you talking about? And then all of a sudden, boom, he's pulled out in front of her.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, how did you know that?
You can just, you can
just
see them like turning their heads.
Or not even, I'm looking at him in his rearview mirror. I'm looking at him in the side mirror. He's not even looking at what he's doing.
Yeah,
He's on his phone. No, you can see him kind of weave to one side or whatever. Just those little things that you sort of pick up on just from riding a bike to keep yourself alive is crazy.
Well, when my mate Shannon again, because he's the only guy I know who owns a bike. When he bought the bike on his way home, he goes, I almost got clipped by a car.
Yeah.
His first ride.
Yep.
So, and my dad said something which honestly is like stuck in my brain. He said, it's not when, no, he goes, it's not, it was more along the lines of, it's when you're going to fall off.
Yeah. Yep.
You are going to fall off
You're going
sooner
to.
or later.
Yep.
So it's just a matter of when.
Yep. And and when it happens, it's got nothing to do with you at all.
Yeah.
You're just a bystander.
So yeah. And honestly, when I heard that, I just went, well, I don't ever want a bike now. So fuck that.
I can tell you with no word of a lie, I've claimed people's mirrors.
Yep. Like on a bike.
Yeah. Fuck. Because they've just pulled in. Like I'm literally right next to them.
Yeah, yeah.
You can't not hear me. I'm right next to you.
And bikes are loud too.
My bike was loud. Right next to me. And they just accelerate and then cut in front. But like cut in on the front wheel. So I'll accelerate up. And I had gloves that had like stainless steel knuckles on them.
Yeah, yeah.
I'd smash mirrors off. I actually pulled a guy's mirror off and handed it to him and said, you're not using it, so you don't need it.
You're not using it. Oh my God, that's funny. Yeah. But yeah. So what, do you still ride now?
Not now.
Not now?
Not now.
What did you used to ride?
So I've had a Higher Sung GV650.
Okay, that's a decent bike.
It's a cruiser.
Yep.
But it was Higher Sung sort of entry level learner approved cruiser. It was actually, apart from a few little issues I had, it was actually a really good bike. It was really well built, which was surprising, being Korean made. They were actually a really well built bike.
Yeah, yeah.
After that, I bought a Victory Vegas. Victory Vegas 8-ball, which is like the full blacked out sort of cruiser again.
Yeah, yeah.
I've ridden friends like he had a friend of mine had an MT09. I've had friends with like Ninjas and all sorts. So I've ridden all sorts of bikes.
So you've probably ridden more cool bikes than you have cars.
At this point, yeah.
Yeah. So what's the coolest bike you've ridden then?
Probably the Victory. The Victory was unreal. Before I bought that, I did a lot of test riding. I'd always wanted a Harley. And it was around the time I think the Harley Rocker had come out.
Okay.
So probably about 2008.
Yeah, yep.
Thereabouts. That had come out, so I'm test riding all the bikes. I want that bike. And I don't know, like something in the back of my mind just went, okay, you've ridden all the Harleys, now just try some other stuff. Just see, have a look, like kind of dabble. So I went and I rode a Triumph.
Oh, yeah, yeah. They're actually like...
It was a really nice bike.
Yeah,
man.
I've heard they're really good to ride.
It was a Triumph. I think it was a Thruxton at the time or something like that. It was a nice bike, man. I'm like, yeah, that's a contender. That could be up there.
The one bike, so there's actually a guy in my complex where I'm living right now. He has a Ducati Monster.
Yep.
Fuck, that thing sounds mean, dude. Like
Yeah.
it's like this deep rumble.
Yep. I never had that money, so I kind of just stayed away from it.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, I think he told me he bought that bike because it was an older model. I think he bought it for like 10 grand or something, which is expensive for a bike, to be fair. And dude, it was insane.
Yeah.
Like when I see bikes like that, it kind of like pulls in my heartthreads a little bit. I'm like, oh, that's sick.
Yeah.
And then the Panigale is obviously like the Ferrari of bikes.
Yep.
So I don't think I'd ever, like I said, I don't think I'm ever going to get a bike, but I just like looking at them. I'm just like, fuck, the Ducatis have a place in my heart, but I feel like it's everybody's place. Like everyone loves a Ducati.
Yeah.
So I got another question for you, mate. So if you don't mind me asking, when was it that, like in your 20s, what era was that? Yeah. If you don't mind me asking.
So that was 2001. I'm an 81 model. So 2001 was when I turned 20.
That's honestly one of the best years for cars.
Yeah.
So I want to know what the car scene was like
in
that time.
We're looking at the start of the mini truck era. We're looking at the start of Sex Spec.
Yes.
Right?
100%.
Such a good time for cars like this. Sydney Auto Salon. I don't think Motorex was there at that time. I think it might have replaced Auto Salon.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because like that era of cars, when I think pretty much from about 95 to probably about 2005 was when all the sick JDM cars like your Supras and your Integras and your S2000s, your Nissans, your Super, like all those cool cars came out then. And like to be in my 20s around that time would have just been unreal.
A friend of mine bought himself an S15 brand new.
That's
at
sick.
that time.
Yeah,
straight off the factory floor. Yeah, it was either the R spec. I think it was the R spec, which was the full Jap spec.
Yeah.
And his mother, they were in real estate, so they had a bit of money to throw around. His mother bought an S2000, brand new off the factory floor.
How much were they back then? Do you remember?
The S2000 back then was around the 60 grand mark from memory.
Holy dude!
Back then.
No way.
Yeah.
60 grand.
Yeah.
Shit, I don't even think that's even worth like. There's no way I'd pay 60 grand for a Honda. Not an S2000 anyway. Jesus Christ, that's like the equivalent of like 180 grand.
It was. I think it was 50 or 60. I think I'm right with the 60 though.
What about the S15?
And the S15, I think they were around I'd say 35 to 40 mark at the time.
Okay, so I'm just kind of going, it's about triple kind of what the value back then to now, I'm going to say.
Yeah, thereabouts.
Yeah, so that's essentially spending 120 grand on an S15. Fucking hell. So they had cash.
They had cash, yeah.
But yeah, I love the S15. Which model of the S15? Because there's different types. There's like, I don't know if I'm probably butchering it right now because I think there's different model types of the S15.
I think it's just a spec.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, the S15's the S15. That was the 200SX we called it, which was just an S15 Silvia.
Okay. So I'm completely wrong then.
But yeah, it was just a spec. So he had the top spec that we could get in Australia.
Yeah. Fuck, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And what about the GDRs, the Skylines?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know too many people that bought them. I couldn't tell you the price of them at the time. It's one thing that always interests me, like what cars were worth new to what they are now.
Well, I think really, like those cars, especially these days, honestly, I can't justify how expensive they are.
No.
Have you seen how much like an R34 is?
Yeah.
It's, for those who are listening and don't know what the price of it they are, they range anywhere, I think if you get the V-Spec, anywhere between 250 plus.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So they're crazy expensive. And it's all because I think now they're legal in America and the people are buying here and shipping it there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And they just
shot up crazy. Now there've been people sitting on the R34 since the first Fast and Furious, right? With Paul Walker.
That's what put it on the scene pretty much.
Yeah. Actually, that would have been the second one. Yeah, they had between Too Fast, Too Furious and like Fast and Furious, they actually had like the prelude, which was like what he did in the meantime between the two movies.
Yeah.
That's where that car was more prominent, right? That's when people started to sit on those cars in the States. So there've been cars in Japan that people have been sitting on just waiting.
Yeah, until they
That's early 2000s, man.
Because I think they had to wait 25 years or something.
You got 25-year rule, yeah.
Yeah. But I think they now just start... Oh, actually, no, it wouldn't be just now.
Yeah, 98. So 98, 99.
Yeah, so 2023.
Yep.
Yeah. So literally last year, that's when they started. So speaking of the JDM spec cars. We're going to play a game.
Here we go.
I prepped him for this. So I said to him, we're going to play a game and we're going to blind rank JDM cars. And it's going to be around that era, the 95 to 2005 sort of spec era. So the way the game works is I'm going to tell him 5 cars in order and he has to list them between 1 and 5, 1 being the best, 5 being the worst. But he's not going to know what the next car coming after is. So I'm going to tell him a car and he's going to say, I'm going to put that at 3. And given the next car, and he's going to go, oh shit, maybe that's not a 3, maybe that's a 2, and then go from there.
Do we get to compare afterwards where I'd actually
Yeah, we'll do that.
Cool.
Well, you can redeem yourself. All right, so I've got 2 lists because I feel like one list wasn't enough. So we'll do 2 lists.
Sweet.
So car number 1, Honda S2000.
Ooh.
What a machine, right?
I'm going to play safe here. I love an S2000. I'm going to play safe. I'm going to put that at number 3.
Number 3.
Yeah,
Interesting take.
Yeah.
So
I don't think we got the best yet.
number 2, Mazda RX-7, the FD.
Ooh, for me, that's number 1.
That's number 1?
You got me.
You love a rotary?
Yeah, yep.
See, they're sick cars, but I'm not a big fan of the rotary, if I'm being completely honest.
I love them.
Yeah?
Love them.
If you could get an FD, would you
All the issues that come with them, I love them. Yep.
So that's number 1. All right. Mitsubishi Eclipse.
Ooh, the Eclipse. See, we never got that, right?
We never did.
So we're looking the first car from Fast and Furious, the opening scene, that was the Eclipse.
Correct.
Oh, I'm going to put that at 5.
I think that's a good
I've
spot,
gone
to
the
be
extremes.
honest.
I've gone the extremes now, haven't I? I've gone safe, I've gone high,
Yep.
and I've gone...
I'm not going to lie.
I think I'm sitting pretty good.
I think you're doing pretty well. Car number 4. I feel like I already know where you're going to put this car. This is Skyline R34 GDR.
2.
Yeah.
Yep.
I feel like you can't,
Yep.
but you're going to die with this one. Honda NSX.
Oh, okay. That has to go 4, right?
Yeah.
That's the only place left for it. Damn. Okay.
So if you could redo the list, how would
So
you
if I
go?
can redo the list, I'm just changing the NSX. That's going to number 2.
Yeah.
We're going to move the R34 and the S2000 down, and we're just going to sit the NSX in at number 2.
So you would go. So your modified list would be RX-7,
Yep.
R34.
No.
Oh, sorry.
RX-7,
NSX,
NSX,
R34,
R34,
S2000.
S2000, Eclipse.
That's what I would have done.
Yep.
If I knew the list as well.
Yeah.
Actually, I think I would swap the NSX with the R34. That's probably what I would do.
I feel they're interchangeable.
Yeah, they're so iconic.
Yeah.
They're such great cars.
So for a little while, I tried to play photographer. If you follow my personal Instagram page, I've got a shoot that I did with a NSX.
Oh, wow.
NSX Type R.
I'm going to follow your
Beautiful
personal
car.
page now.
Beautiful car, man.
Because
Love
I've
it.
got a mate who does
Yep.
his like side hustles to
Yep.
take photos of cars. All right, let's go to list number 2. All right, here we go. This one's interesting, this list. So I really, this can go either way. Car number 1, Toyota Supra. The Mark, I'll even go as far as to say it's the Mark II.
Mark II Supra.
Yeah.
Ooh. I'm going to put it at 4.
4?
Mark,
Oh, that's a hot
We're
take.
talking... Are we, you're talking the Mark II, like the old square one, right?
Yeah, the old square one.
You're not talking about the round one, the orange one from Fast and
That's
Furious?
the one I'm talking
Mark
about.
4.
Oh, that's the Mark IV,
Now we're
sorry.
now we're a different number.
Yeah, sorry.
That's
I thought that was the Mark II.
Number 2.
Okay, number 2.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was my bad.
That's all
folks.
right.
Okay, Mitsubishi Evo.
Evo. Ooh, okay.
And I think this particular model is the MR8. I think.
Ooh. I'm going to put it at... Where do I just sit?
You put the Supra at 2.
I'll put that at 2. I'm going to sit the Evo at 3.
3.
Yeah.
Okay. Honda Integra.
Integra, that's going 5.
That just...
Sorry.
No chill.
Sorry, Honda. I own a Civic. I'd put that at a 10. So
Yeah. All right. So Subaru Impreza WRX STI.
okay. So I've got 1 and 4 left,
1 and
right?
4. Yep.
Oh man, I really need to know what the next one is.
You will after you place this car.
I'm gonna put it at 1. I'm gonna regret this, aren't I?
Well, you're about to find out. Here we go. Car number 5. Mazda MX-5.
Oh yeah, 4. Yeah, we're good.
So you happy with that list?
I think so.
So we got so we got Impreza at number 1.
WRX,
Yeah. Then you've got the Supra,
Supra,
then the Evo,
Evo,
then the Integra.
Integra. MX-5.
MX-5, then you take.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that.
That's actually not a bad take.
I'm pretty happy with that.
I think
I know a lot of people. That Supra would be up well and above the WRX. There's a bit of a theme, right? I like a Subaru.
Yeah.
I bought another Brumby, by the way. There's one sitting in my driveway now. I don't know. I've always had a soft spot for a WRX. So in that list, that definitely hits top.
the Boxer engine.
Yep.
There's no other sound with that car.
Yeah.
So like my mate who had that Rexy, holy shit, that sounded good.
They got such a cool sound.
I would hear him from 2 blocks away.
Yeah.
That's how fucking loud it was.
Yeah.
It was great.
It's such a cool sound.
Yeah. I think that's not a bad list. I feel for me anyway, I have a soft spot for the MX-5.
Yep.
Because it's like a little go-kart.
I get it. I get
Yeah.
it. They're an awesome car.
Yeah, I've driven one too, and
But
they're quite little.
my positioning in that order does not take away from any one of those cars, I can tell.
I think people need to consider that too. Like, it's not like we're saying like these cars are shit. Like, they're great cars.
They're all good cars.
Yeah.
And like I said, like owning a Civic, sure, it wouldn't be up there. It's probably one of the most fun cars I've ever owned, and it's probably the lowest powered car I've ever owned.
Yeah. Actually, what was the first car you ever owned?
So that was a Subaru Brumby.
This was the Brumby.
Yeah, that would definitely be the lowest powered car I've owned. But the Civic had become real close.
Did you buy that car, or was that
My father owned it.
I
I bought it from my father.
Yeah, nice. So I was a little bit lucky for my first car. So my dad had a BMW E36.
Yep.
Can't remember exactly which model, but anyway, he ended up giving it to me and my brother, and then he ended up buying a Holden SV6.
I wished at the time I have that story that my father just gave me the car. I was like, oh, you like this car? Here you go.
Yeah.
He stuck me full freight for that thing.
You've got to learn today.
Yeah, that's right. He goes, you want to buy a car? You're going to learn how to buy a car. I'm like, okay, here we go.
Did you haggle him a bit too? Be like, oh, look, I've seen the driver of this car.
I tried, and he goes, nope.
Yeah, there's no haggling with your
The thing was immaculate.
Okay.
I destroyed it. I was the death of that thing.
I
destroyed it. My dad gave it a good run. I drove it into the ground. But yeah, $7,000 I paid for that when it was 7 years old.
Shit, that's pretty pricey though for a car
So
like that.
it was 99 when I bought it.
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
a 92 model.
Fuck, that is pricey.
At that point, that was pricey. But I had my apprenticeship at the time.
Yep.
Which was paying good money, and I was doing good hours. And I was living at home with my parents. So I got a loan. My parents went guarantor for me. My old man said, yep, cool. That's what you're going to pay for it. I tried to talk him down. He said, no, that's what you're going to pay for it.
Yeah.
So he got the best deal from that car, I promise. But at the same time, they went guarantor. I said, we're going to help you go through the process of how it works.
Yep.
You're going to go get the loan, and you're going to pay it off. Okay, no worries. So as soon as that loan was set, all the paperwork was signed. I said, okay, what are the repayments? They told me what it was. I said, cool, double it.
Yeah. Oh, so you can pay it off even faster.
I paid it off in 18 months.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
That's honestly the best way to go about it. Always pay
Because
more.
that was the only bill I had, that and a mobile phone at the time. That was the only bills I had. So
No, so that's a great story.
Yeah.
So for me, I was lucky. I got given a car, but it was funny because, well, not really funny. So the car that me and my brother inherited wasn't the actual BMW that we had for years.
Yep.
So honestly, the timing couldn't have been worse. So when I got my L's, literally a month or two before, someone had hit. So my mum was driving to work and she had turned right. She had the right of way. So I don't know how to describe the area, but there's a bridge and there's a blind spot. And right just after the peak, there's a set of lights. You're supposed to slow down going over that peak.
Yep.
This person didn't slow down. So my mum's already turning in. This guy's come flying over.
Nowhere to go. Yeah.
T-boned the car. Car got written off. So I never got a chance to drive that particular one. So my dad ended up just going and buying straight away a new BMW. At the time, it would have been 2010, 2009, somewhere there. Ended up paying like $6,000 for it, which is pretty cheap for that car.
Yeah.
And it was cheap for a reason, we found out. So that car was an absolute lemon.
A cheap BMW is not a good thing.
No, it's not. That car just had so many issues. But you know what? There's something about just a shit car for your first car that makes it so good.
It's like a rite of passage, isn't it?
Yeah. Honestly, I think about that car and I love that car.
Yep.
I think it's because it was my first. I watched it every weekend.
Yep. You go through all the pains and heartaches with it.
Yeah.
Yep.
And honestly, the nail in the coffin with that car was we had already spent about $4,000 to fix it and had all these leaks. Anyway, we finally fixed it. It was finally great. And then the ABS just fucking piked out. Of course, out of all the fucking parts to go.
So now it's a 15 grand BMW.
Yeah. No, well,
By the time
it was
fixed.
$2,500 to get a second-hand ABS system, not even brand new. And then it would have been like, I think, I'm butchering this because I don't remember exactly what it was. Might have been $1,000 worth of labor to actually replace it.
Yeah.
So it was like, oh, dude, no, the $3,500, we've already bought another car. You know what I mean? So we ended up just quickly getting it, went to a dealership, traded it in, got a Lancer, and I had that car for 8 years. That was a fucking great car too. Mitsubishi Lancer, the VRX Sportsback. So that was great. And I had that car for ages until I got a work car, and then I didn't need another car after that. So perks of having a work car.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said for a work car.
Yeah. But man, we're at 1 hour and 8 minutes in.
Already. How good.
Yeah, so I think we'll probably wrap it up, man.
Yeah, sweet, man.
But thank you for coming on the show.
No, thank you for having me.
No, dude, like I said, I was blown away when you said yes. I really wanted to have you on on our first date, which was last year, but we're here now. We made it.
That's it.
2024 starting off with a bang.
Hell yeah.
So guys, if you make sure you listen to his podcast, it's Gutter to Gutter. You want to do a bit of a plug for yourself?
See, again, terrible at this. But yeah, Gutter to Gutter podcast on Spotify, right? That's an easy one. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere you find podcasts, really. They kind of put you everywhere. You'll find if you're into the drift stuff and you kind of want to, especially if you're new to drift, if you kind of want to find out what's going on around Australia and the scene as a whole, where you can sort of go and get involved, Gutter to Gutter TV on YouTube.
There you go.
And also the video version of the podcast will be uploaded there.
Also, check out his Instagram. Hopefully are you going to jump on TikTok and shorts and stuff like that?
So I'm on TikTok.
Oh, you're on TikTok? I'm going to follow you then.
I jumped on that, kicking and screaming, but it's kind of one of those things like if you're not on it, do you really exist these days? So,
yeah, I know what you mean.
Jumped on that a while ago. So.
All right, so I've got to follow Gutter to Gutter as well.
Gutter to Gutter podcast or Gutter to Gutter. Any variant of that, you'll find me.
Yes, sweet. So make sure you follow him on Insta. He always uploads stories and heaps of content on his Instagram that you won't get on YouTube. So make sure you follow him on Insta. And hopefully you start uploading on TikTok as well.
I've done little bits and pieces. The reels and stuff I kind of throw over there too. So.
Yeah, sweet.
Yep.
And then I'll do a bit of a plug for myself.
You should do that. It's your podcast. Yeah.
So thank you all for staying this long. I hope you really enjoyed this episode. I really had a good time recording this episode. This was awesome for me. This has been such a great experience. So like the channel, and if you subscribe to my channel as well, that'd be much appreciated. It does help push my content further. I do have an Instagram. I do have a TikTok. I've been thinking lately if I'm going to start uploading shorts, but we'll see. I am going to start doing some new content later on this year. So please follow me on Instagram if you want to see some reacts that I'm thinking about doing. It's trying to kind of help grow the podcast. And that's it. Thank you all, guys. And we'll see you at the next episode.